Is something nobody ever tells you. Your first simulation is never your last simulation. There is always a lot going in between the first simulation and the last simulation. Every garment needs adjustment. And the difference between an intermediate user and a beginner isn't just talent. It is about knowing what your simulation is telling you and how to respond to it. And that is exactly what today is about. We would be looking at what our simulation is telling you and the adjustments to do to it so we can have a perfect fit. So when you run your simulation, your garment is giving you an information. It is left for you to know how to read the information your garment is giving you. Like what we have here is definitely giving us some information. And there are four things to look for, which is pulling, the pulling like the one we have here in this corner, the bunching that we have here, the one on the sleeves to the shoulder. There's collapsing and floating. But for today, we are treating pulling and bunching. That's what we are treating today. Now, let's talk about pulling. Pulling means your fabric is too stretched between a tight point. If you check your 3D window and you look at this overlay that we have here, you can see it's kind of like pulling the fabric underneath. That tells you something. The tiny strap, the tiny strip we have, not wide enough for the length. And for you to confirm, we'll go to our 2D window, we'll click on our sewing line, and then you can see when you click on the sewing, this is sewn to this and then this is sewn to that. By the time you check their length, you see that this is 12 inches, about 13 inches, that's like 12.8 inches, and then we have about 22.365. So when you see something like this, when you see a part pulling the other side in your CLO3D, you have to go back to your 2D pattern window and see where it is going wrong. So for this now, we can see our line is shorter than the other and we have to adjust it. So we have a seat of about 10 inches at the front and 10 inches at the back. So I'm just going to increase it by 10 inches. So that's done. I'll go to my 3D pattern window, select this, superimpose over the other side as well, superimpose over, and then I'll simulate. Can you see? You can see exactly how it dropped. I love the effect, so I'm just going to go back for you to see how it's gonna drop. Can you see the difference? So we just fixed pulling. The next thing we are going to fix now is bunching. So our next thing to fix is bunching. And what is bunching? Bunching happens when you have excess fabric and there is nowhere for it to go to. Now, if you take a closer look at our sleeves, you can see that towards this edge, especially here, I understand there's a cuff there that is meant to hold it. We have styles like that, but this seems like a lot. But let's leave that aside since we have garments that have cuffs and the cuffs are kind of like smaller than the major parts of it. But now let's take a look at this shoulder and the sleeves. If you look at it properly, you see that it seems like there's too much sleeve for the armhole because this is straight, but this seems like it's not like it seems like this is bunching up, the other side is straight. So we have to fix that. And like I said earlier, you check your sewing and we have here 13 inches and what we have here is 11.6. I know there are some garments whereby we have like a little bit of gathering, but this is not it. This is a different case entirely. And if you check that one too, we have 15 and here we have 12. So there's like a deficit of about 2 inches on both sides. So to do that, I'll just select my sleeves and bring it in slightly. Okay, so let's reduce it by like, I think is 80% not too much. Let's increase by like 85, and we'll see what we have. So we'll check again to confirm how this is 11.77, this is 11.627, so they are quite close. I'll simulate. Now you can see the difference. I'm so sure you can see the difference, like I can see too. There is a smoother line between the shoulder and the sleeves. Now that's a bunchy problem fixed. Now we fixed bunching, pulling, and the last two is floating and collapsing. I'm just going to explain what floating and collapsing is to you. Collapsing means the fabric is falling inwards, which usually points to a missing structure or a seam that is not holding. Floating means the garment isn't sitting properly on the body, but as you can see here, we don't have a floating issue. The garment is sitting properly. And another issue you can have is excess fabric. I know we are creating an oversized hoodie, but these sleeves seem too much, and we have to like reduce it to have like a proper, nice and great fit. Also, this one seems to have like bunching and pulling at the bottom here, because this cuff is too small for what we have. So I'm going to increase the cuff at the bottom and also reduce the sleeves so we have a more perfect fit. So to do that, I would go to my 2D pattern window, bring this up, or maybe just offset the line. As you can see, I tried bringing it in, but it is curving. So I'll just let the line offset as internal line, and then I'll have like there's a 2 inches off. I'm just gonna cut that and delete. Same for the other side, delete, and I'll simulate. As you can see, it's falling more, and I think it looks, does it even look better, or it still seems like it's much? Now still feels a bit wide, so I'm just going to like reduce the bottom, this one here, my 1 inch on this side, and then let's see one on the other. Then I'm going to sew the sides together. Now that looks much more better from what we have. And then for this, I'm just going to increase this. Let's increase it by like 120. No, yeah, we're increasing it by 20%. Now you can see the difference. I understand there is always a bit of some, what is it called, behind, but regardless, it shouldn't be too tight as well. Increase it by 20%. Simulate. Now we have a much more better hoodie. Our hoodie has fallen off the head. We're just going to leave it like that. So we have a nice fitted oversized hoodie. I'm just going to fix this other side as well. Another thing I would like to bring your attention to is your grain line. Your grain line is meant to run parallel, because if it is not parallel, your garment might be ill fitted on your avatar body. You can find it here in your 2D pattern window under the information display. Just make sure it's on, and it should be parallel to each other. If it isn't, then you'd have to like change it because it can make your garment look a little bit off. Even if it is off by a few degrees, the whole simulation can drape indifferently. I have one final golden rule of adjustment for you. If you see that your garment has like a whole lot of issues, the neckline, the shoulders, the sleeves, do not attempt to fix it all and resimulate at once. That is a recipe for disaster. And the reason why I said it is a recipe for disaster is because if something goes wrong after each of the adjustments, you might not be able to trace it back to whichever one caused it, which is going to give you a lot of issues because you might have to like start from scratch. So it's best to fix it one by one, like I did. You notice I fixed the pulling first, then went to the bunching, and then I fixed the excess fabric at the cuff and the one at the bottom as well that seemed quite. It should be one edit, one simulation. I know it might seem slower, but it is more efficient. And I don't want you to beat yourself up if you can't quickly read your mistakes. Learning to read your simulation is a skill that you develop over time. The more garments you build, the faster you'd spot your mistakes and build on them. Don't be discouraged if your first simulation does not look perfect. That is a process and not failure. And in the next episode, we are going to design something that is more fun, pockets, color, something that takes a garment from shape into a statement. See you in episode 8.